Start streaming. Okay, to go all the way back to what we were originally doing, because we diverted down subjective and objective and what do they actually mean. The topic is still, as it has been, where did we even introduce it? Here, all the way back here. We're doing all the things that ethics isn't. So we've done relativism, subjectivism, the law, although we would hope the law would follow it. And the next one is natural law. And this one is particularly nice for those who are like, if it's natural, it is good type. So just to start things off, if I can get this to actually slide over. I think the narration is kind of annoying. However, let's see how loud it is. We'll try and keep it low. Oh, right. And since I'm live streaming this, And that's the right one. When we do logic and we do fallacies, this is known as the appeal to nature fallacy. We see it in a lot of human rhetoric. A lot of the original appeal to the most recent one, when we're talking about either trans or gay marriage, is that it's unnatural. It's a crime against humanity because it's unnatural. And then people incorrectly point out that it is natural. And I say incorrectly because it doesn't matter. Whether it's natural or unnatural, there's plenty of things that are natural that we wouldn't want, like larvae swimming around your eye. And there's plenty of unnatural things that might be nice. The natural law theory says that the moral views we have are reflected in nature, so anything that's natural is good. You can see that reflected in the grocery store, in which organic food is labeled so you know which food is more nutritious. Except that from any scientific perspective, organic food and non-organic food has exactly the same nutritional value. It's a label. It doesn't mean anything in a chemistry sense. In an organic chemistry, the word organic actually means something completely different. In the organic chemistry sense, all food is organic. I once was in a health food store, and they did have a big chunks of salt for sale, and it was labeled organic salt. And I did ask quite loudly why this was, because salt is literally a rock. It literally can't be organic in either definition of the term. And then my wife asked me to leave because she just wanted to buy some hummus, and they sell very nice hummus there. And I shouldn't bother them. You see it in the, if you go up to the PharmaSave, I don't know if they still have it. For a while they had it. I think they've replaced it with a diet area, but they had an entire homeopathy section of medicine, right next to the actual medicine you need a prescription for. And homeopathic medicine is considered, and it had a lot of natural labels. We do that when you buy vitamins. Vitamins will tell you this is a natural vitamin, so you should pay more. Vitamins are chemical compounds. It doesn't matter if they're natural or unnatural. They both don't work unless you're taking them via a doctor's prescription for a specific purpose, but just taking them randomly doesn't seem to do anything. Michael, where are your notes? Got yours. In the view of natural law, everything should be striving to serve their natural purpose. What is your purpose? My purpose is to pass the butter. In this view, what is natural is right, and what is not unnatural is wrong or evil, even. This goes way back, because obviously being right-handed is natural, and being left-handed is not. It was a sign that you in some way were touched by the devil or evil, so much so that we get our words from it. Dexterous means that you are right-handed. Sinister comes from the Latin word for left-handed. Yes? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And they wouldn't let him write. That happened to my dad as well. He didn't develop a stutter, but his handwriting is atrocious because he can't write with his left now. Yeah. Yeah. Hold it. Your younger sister. All those stories I've heard of, like, these were old people with teachers who didn't know what they were doing. Oh, interesting. Yeah, there's no, it just messes you up a little bit when you have a particular way and they don't want to do it. But I'd never heard of somebody's younger sister. And a reminder that I just said like 3 controversial things in a row about homeopathy, organic food in the grocery store, and what was the first one? Oh, the other one wasn't controversial, I guess. We'll just go with that. What was my rule again? Your parents are always right. And has to do with anything I say. Don't believe me without checking. So if your parents say that organic food is the only food you should eat, you should still only eat that. Because if there's a parent-teacher interview, I am totally throwing what I said under the bus. Like that's, oh, yes, of course. Of course. Of course. Of course. But natural law is the idea that everything that is reflected in nature must be good. And so I'm just going to go around the room, and I want us to think of some opposites. Something that you would call unnatural. And, well, actually, why don't we start over on this side of the room? Either call them an unnatural good or a natural evil. Name one. Mount Baker. Why is this raining? Ms. Mertlin? It provides. So, natural good. Did anybody die in the Mount Baker explosion? I was going to ask because I don't think Mount Baker has ever exploded, but it's in the U.S. and maybe it did. But there was growth there first. Yeah, so it destroyed all that. It did no environmental impact studies. It just did it. Just did it. Didn't consult anybody? No. One person died. One person died. I do remember that person on the news saying they weren't going to leave. I think it was more than one person. There was a person who refused to leave, but there was also a reporter who was caught in the area. And some of the pictures that we have are from them because they covered their camera with their body because they realized at some point they couldn't get out in time and they wanted to preserve the photographs. Either a unnatural good or natural evil. Yep. Woo. By choice. Yes. I'll take that as read. I don't want to get in quite the ethics of that if it wasn't by choice, because that is a whole separate section. Yes. Name a natural disaster. Pardon? A tsunami. I hope I spelled tsunami correctly. Are you thinking of a specific one? Because there was a one a few years ago. I think around Christmas time. No, you don't. Does anybody remember that one? Yeah. I do recall hearing when the waters went away, because at first the waters go away and then they come back. A lot of people rushed down to the beach to collect all the things that they could see. They weren't aware. Yeah, and then they use it. And there was an old, apparently, tale there that if there were people who knew that tale who then immediately moved inland because it said when the sea recedes, you get up high. So apparently this has happened before, which was interesting. Oh, yeah, really? Oh, that's awesome. So, unnatural good. Learning in school. I'm going to keep going through so everybody's going to get a chance. Question, yeah. Yeah. Oh, God, I hope not. Yeah. Well, the island sank. It's a bit. I get questions like this from Kirk a lot. If you don't know Kirk, he's my 11-year-old son, and he's like, "If a meteorite hit me right now, what would you do?" And I'm like, "I would be sad." So if the entire island sunk, right where we are, very difficult because of the way our bay is protected and the way the finger on the other side where you can see the airport is, means that it's very difficult for a tsunami to rush towards us specifically. That's what I was told by someone who has studied this more than I have. Because we were even before the last one happened, people got worried and looked at the bay and they're like, it's almost impossible for one to get here. I think one you have to get an earthquake like right pinpointed at where the airport is, and that section would have to come this way. So it'd have to be very precise hit. There, 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 and there. Yes. Yeah, yeah, because we're on the. Yeah, yeah. And then there, and then I promised there. Unnatural good, learning in school. Oh, YouTube, even better example. Sorry. Did you have a specific example in mind? Because you just took out a ton of examples. Just doctors being around. Have you ever had medicine for anything that cured something? Advil. Advil is great. Oh. Okay. Now we need some natural evils. Yes. Go. X-ray machines. Now that we know how to use them properly. My mom remembers X-ray machines in the shoe store. You'd walk in and you'd put your feet underneath the X-ray machine and you'd see a live image of your bones moving in your shoes, and you could tell if your shoes fit. And then we learned out that they cause cancer. So we don't do that anymore. But still, they're useful enough. Yes. Be careful where you swim. Yeah. Now, I skipped over here and I was doing this. Is there anybody here? I have it. There we go. Name a disease? Cancer. Cancer is completely natural. It's really difficult to avoid. Every time you get a mutation, you're buying a lottery ticket. It takes 6 to 7 mutations to get one, which is why you don't get one right away. And your body's pretty good at fixing the damage. But there's always a chance a mutation escapes, and then as you get older, those tickets keep getting bought. So, yeah, it's an entirely natural process. Now, COVID. COVID's a good one. Kind of topical. Moving down to here. Have you given one? Ooh. Masks. I particularly appropriate because I have seen very angry people protesting saying that masks aren't natural. Therefore, we shouldn't wear them. In exactly the same natural law theory that we're doing. We wear pants. Like, I don't understand the whole, you can't force system. We force you to make pants. Like, if I didn't have to wear pants, I actually don't. I wear shorts. But if I didn't have to wear shorts, I would wear other things. Or maybe nothing at all. Not in class. But, like, why wear things if you don't have to? We have to. We all agree we have to. They have signs at stores. They'll kick you out if you don't. And there's no health reason for it, really. But for masks, there's an actual health reason. Have you given an example? Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah. But yes, absolutely. Is the virus conscious? No. So it's a, yeah. Are they? That's a fairly bold statement. I mean, if you said lion, I might be like, well, it's a mammal. It's got similar brain structures. I'd be like, yeah, maybe. But a bacterium, insects are fairly robotic. Yeah. Really? Oh, it has a nervous system and a rudimentary brain. But the brain structure is required for consciousness, for the idea that you can recognize yourself in a mirror, you can have a theory of existence, and not just feel a negative stimuli, but actually feel emotionally attached to the fact that pain is bad. I would say check that out, because there is a certain level of complexity that may be required there. But it is a good point. It is, and Ms. Mertland made the same point. Like, Mount St. Helens did grow a lot of things. So that is, in the long term, good. But good for what? Because when I say good, it's usually good for a purpose. And if people died, we would normally consider that evil. If it blew up and nobody died, but it wiped out like an extinct species of marmot, we would still call that a natural evil. The marmot is now dead. Yeah. People. Yeah. Wouldn't we? I'll bet you showed YouTube videos of those deer dying in puddles of lava. Everybody'd be really sad. It wouldn't be as big. We do have layers. I mean, we get sad when deer die, but we also eat deer. Yeah. So, yeah, no, absolutely. Your point is well taken. Now, I want to get to everybody who hasn't spoken. Have you given an example? Have you given an example? I'll do questions right after because I don't think you've given an example. Go. So, give me an example. Let's not make it political. I would argue that Trump president is best president. he was amazing. In terms of teaching this course, I had examples every day. And as a Canadian, it was entertaining. Sometimes very sad, but always there was an emotion attached to it. So you said killers like serial killers? Yeah. And serial killers would be humans, and humans are natural. Okay. Have I asked you for an example? You said wheels for dogs. You said one? You said Advil. And last? Genetic engineering. My favorite type of engineering. CRISPR's coming. Okay, questions or points? Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Because part of good and evil, when we're talking about this, I've made it very black and white on here. And we would probably say COVID with the amount of human deaths is evil, but there will be some good things that you can find in everything. If you smoke, you decrease your risk of Alzheimer's. Like if you take up like traditional, not vaping, traditional tobacco smoking, you smoke cigarettes, your risk of Alzheimer's goes down. It's a little silver lining while you're dying of lung cancer. Yeah. By the way, dividing the class right here, get your question in a moment, right here. This side, I would like all of you to take up smoking. Okay, you have my permission. Go buy a couple packs. Not vaping. I want preferably unfiltered, but if you must use filtered cigarettes, fine. Get up to like a pack or two a day. This half, you're not allowed to smoke. But I encourage you, as soon as you get your license, to get a motorbike. And you have permission to ride it without a helmet. Please. Yeah. One of the things we constantly run out of in medical care is sufficient funds and organs. If you take up smoking, you will die more quickly and won't be a huge burden on the healthcare system, which means the healthcare system will have more money. Pour moi. And if you're riding motorbikes, you have some nice, young, fresh organs. You'll probably damage your heads, and those organs will be available. I'll need a heart and a liver. It'll be useful. Useful. Yes. Obviously, I was joking. Don't do those things. Yes. Was it lab created? We don't know that. I think that was speculated. Yeah, no, I think. Mm-hmm. Yes? Pardon? Anything that has smoke particulates in it is bad. So a campfire is bad. Smoking, like lighting something on fire and breathing it in is bad. Is vaping better than smoking? Yes. Is vaping good for you? No, because I've seen a lot of advertisements say like vaping's actually beneficial. It's no, and the long-term effects of some of those we don't know. It would be very difficult for it to be as bad as smoking, but it might be bad. We just don't know how bad yet. Yep. If you what? Yeah. Smoke is so bad for the humans that if you are, say, pregnant, and the umbilical cord to the little baby, fetus, if you just breathe like a whiff of campfire smoke, it actually squishes shut, and it drastically reduces the amount of blood getting to the fetus. And if that happens all the time, the fetus will be born severely underweight and essentially malnourished. It does not grow properly because it is really toxic. And things that are toxic are particularly toxic to things that are being built. So yeah, smoke is in any form is not good for you. Yeah. Mm. The the loss of the mean is a concept that is being more considered, because when you grow up with all the things around you, you don't know any different. And as you said, surgeons who don't see normal lungs anymore would be an example of that. I remember a diver talking to me. He would dive down and show people the corals. And now when he takes down divers to show the corals, he's saddened by what he sees. They're clearly dying, and they're clearly not doing well. But the divers he's taking with him have never seen proper corals, and so they're amazed. They're amazed at what they look like. They're amazed by all the wildlife. They're amazed at what they see, and that's the new normal, and they don't know what it should look like. And he's telling them, but very soon there'll be people who don't know what proper corals should look like, and that's true in a lot of different things. Yeah. Just in terms of the, I just checked. Now, we haven't gone into sources yet. I'm just going to quickly, just because it came up. We do have to be a little careful. Now, I would trust this because it comes from Nature magazine. And Nature magazine isn't a magazine. It's a scientific, it's I think one of the oldest scientific journals that we have. It's well known, it's well respected. This article goes through, and I could post it later if you'd like to have a read. There are people who are proposing that maybe it escaped from a lab, but there is no actual evidence to support that. It is really easy for viruses to start in an animal host and jump to humans. And the last time we had a worldwide pandemic in 1918. That's where that proposed came from as well. And a lot of times you heard about bird flu and pig flu and those types of flus. Yeah, you've never heard of bird flu? We had what was called bird flu a number of years ago. SARS was proposed to come from a bird. And the reason for that is viruses will often affect multiple types of hosts, but they're really good at one particular host. So let's say you can affect humans a little bit, but your primary host is like seagulls. And then one day there's a mutation, and you don't infect seagulls very well, but it just so happens that mutation infects humans really well, and then you jump. And now you're in humans, and you're spreading really quickly. And given the number of viruses in the world, which is a lot, the chances of that happening are actually quite high, because each virus is its own little ticket. This is one of the reasons why we want people to get the vaccine and put on masks, because the more people that get infected by COVID, the increased likelihood that COVID itself will have a mutation that will make it even better at infecting humans and harder to deal with, as you hear from all the variants. So the more people that get vaccinated, the more people that aren't getting infected or aren't getting infected as heavily, the lower the number of viruses, the lower the chances then that this will do this. But the COVID lab leak, as far as I know, now this is June 2021, might be a newer source. As far as I know, there's no direct evidence that it happened. I'd be careful with it about the same way that I'm careful when I was growing up, story time, How many of you have heard of MSG? What is it? Yeah, and what does it do? It makes umami flavor. What else does it do? It makes food taste amazing. You sprinkle it on, it makes salt taste saltier, it makes meat taste meatier. It adds sort of that meaty taste to things, even in things that don't have it. So you have a vegetable dish, which honestly tastes terrible. Throw some MSG in there, amazing. Mushrooms have a lot of it naturally. Tomatoes have a lot of it naturally. Does anybody ever heard anything bad about MSG? One nod. Nobody else has heard anything bad? You've heard something bad? You've heard something bad? You've heard something? Allergic to MSG. Michael, what did you hear? Causes cancer. Anybody? What did you hear? It was bad. It was bad. It was just bad. MSG. I can't remember the scientist. I'm going to say Japanese, but I really don't know. Because it was found first in seaweed. They want to know, why did seaweed make things taste so good? It turns out seaweed had natural MSG in it all the time, and it just added that umami flavor to the food. And they're like, this is great. We take that out, just like you take sugar out of a sugar beet and put it in food, makes it taste better. So they put MSG in things. And then one researcher in the United States went out for a Chinese meal, and afterwards he felt really bloated and kind of sick. And he wrote a letter to the editor in a scientific paper. So not an actual paper. He wrote a letter and said, maybe the fault was the MSG in the Chinese meal he had. And didn't reflect that maybe it was the amount of food he had at the all-you-can-eat buffet that made him feel bloated and kind of sick afterwards. And the people grabbed that and ran with it. At the time, and back when I was growing up, this would have been like 60s, 70s, a lot of Chinese restaurants were first popping up. There were a lot of new immigrants from China that were using MSG in their food, and it really tied into both fear of immigrants, racism, and fear of chemicals. MSG was this foreign thing. Put all those together, and people just said MSG is bad. In the same way that they say, have you heard that aspartame is bad? Aspartame is an artificial sweetener in things like Diet Coke. It's delicious. It's 600 times sweeter than sugar. You just put a drop in and it's sweet. It's amazing. And people will say they get migraines from it. If you give them a Coke that has aspartame in it, but you don't tell them, they don't get a migraine. But if you give them a Coke and tell them there's aspartame in it, even when there isn't, they'll get a migraine. It's known as the nocebo. Placebo is the positive term. You think something's good and it becomes good. Nocebo is when you have deep beliefs that it's bad, so it is bad. Now again, if you've been told that MSG is bad and that aspartame is bad, it's bad. Listen to your parents. But there's no science behind it. Whenever we do double-blind testing, the effect just basically goes away. Pardon? No, it's delicious. Yeah. It's fantastic. It actually is. If you've been told by your doctor to go on a low-salt diet, it can really help because it is itself a salt, but it'll make foods taste saltier than they actually are, and so you don't have to use as much salt. So some of those people, they find it helpful. Yeah. Oh, Diet Coke would be slightly better for you. Yeah, it doesn't have sugar in it. Oh, they both have. I'm not saying they're good for you. I'm saying Diet Coke is less bad. Like, it doesn't have all the sugar. I mean, Diet Coke is as bad for you as, say, mineral water. It is essentially mineral water with different flavorings. It's got some acid in it, yeah. If you're worried about your teeth, the worst ones are the light-colored ones. They usually have stronger acids in them. But really, that is a bit of a misnomer as well. Did you do the experiment in grade school? Sometimes teachers, you take a tooth that's fallen out, you put it in a glass of Coke overnight and it's supposed to dissolve away, or at least heard that story? Anybody actually done it? The tooth doesn't dissolve away. You have to leave it a long time for it to dissolve away because the acids aren't that strong. And your mouth contains saliva that washes things out. You can drink acidic things. It's fine. Just if you drink a lot of it, you're drinking like 4 liters of Coke a day, then yeah. But anything as a treat is fine. I'm not saying that you should immediately go out, buy a 12-pack, and then drink all that Coke. Like, that's too much sugar, caffeine, and lots of other things. But the worst thing in Diet Coke is probably the caffeine. Phones causing cancer? Is it? Your science teacher have I done the cancer thing in this class? Yeah, okay, good. Your science teacher. I'm glad that's qualified. If there is more updates on this, I'll see if I can remember to post this one on the thing so you can have a read through. But what the MSG is, one of the things I'm really suspicious about this hypothesis is it plays into politics, and anytime politics get involved, stories get amplified that may not need amplification. And so if a scientist group comes out and says it, I'll look at it. But it plays into an anti-immigration policy of so many countries to be suspicious of China that I am suspicious of the claim that a lab in China did it. It could be. They do lots of research on viruses all over the world. But it does, so far we haven't any, and it's really easy for viruses to jump between species. They do it all the time. We're halfway through class. Get up and stretch. What the heck is that? Yeah? Because of course that has layers to it. First of all, phones give you cancer, but we're not concerned about the men putting it in their pockets and giving themselves like testicular cancer or anything. 2, it really emphasizes that the woman's only purpose is to reproduce. Only that. And that they cannot be trusted to make that decision for themselves, so we have to like adjust the pockets. No. Yeah. That's amazing. Oh. How old was the person telling you this? Really? Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, that's amazing. I know we found a website from Ms. Walensky that my wife and daughter have now used because they make all the dresses with pockets. In fact, if you don't want pockets, you have to specifically request no pockets. I've never understood. Yeah, like you could put so many pockets. Pardon? Well, traditionally kilts, even any kilt doesn't have pockets because they have a sporan, but they should sell the sporan. But they should just give you pockets. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it would totally be the end of the world. I mean, I got a kilt made for men. That's a newer kilt, and it has pockets. And stitched on 2 not sporan-like things on the side, so I have lots of pockets. Yeah. Oh. Practical. Yeah. Yeah. Pocket. Yeah. It should have pockets. Lots and lots of pockets. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. What? Yeah? No. Oh, yeah. They could. Yeah, and then things. Yeah. Well, and once something becomes traditional, it's really hard to rip it out. Like there's no particular reason for me to wear this because buttons exist. These existed before buttons were practical, and you had to tie your neck closed. But now we have buttons. Yeah. 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 I would believe the witch story simply because a lot of dumb decisions were made on suspicion of women doing things. Yeah, they should never do things. Yeah. Yeah. Like in their pockets. That's hilarious. I think she's the witch. She has pockets. She's casting spells. Well, I would like to see the writing. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. I'm suspicious of the story because it seems too good to be true. Because it's one of those stories that seems like, yeah, I'll believe that, and like there'd be 1,000 TikToks on it. Like the story that, like the one going right now on TikTok is the open sesame is actually open sesame, says me, and that's just not true. It's always been open sesame in English. Because the English, the original word when they were translating the Arabic book was a word that sounded like sesame, but it wasn't Arabic, so they couldn't translate it. So they just picked the closest English word. But it turns out they couldn't translate it because it wasn't Arabic, it was Hebrew. And it was the Hebrew word for password. So they just said open password, and the word for password was Hebrew, and that's why it opened. But the translators didn't know that. So in every language, they picked the closest language word that sounded like that word. So they all have sesame type derivations. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, did they? I have to look this up. Ooh. A cold case has said that they linked it, but the FBI is saying that it's open as of an hour ago. So they're still working through it. Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. 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 Oh, apparently the FBI um, uh, um, also has to consider they have evidence to believe that all the letters that were written were themselves not written by the Zodiac killer. They were written by someone who wanted to just mess around. So they're also weighing that. So even if they found the person who wrote the letters, that may not be the Zodiac killer. That might be. Yeah. All this stuff and put all that together. Put me in death row. Yeah. I will be interested because that's been going for a while. Okay, have a seat. That's been 5 minutes. So a couple of things. We got some good examples here. We also learned that we need nuance because there's maybe very few things that are completely evil and completely good. Pardon? The heat depth of the universe, I think, would definitely be on here under natural evil. I'm surprised nobody put iPhones under unnatural good, because I have children and I have my iPhone and I know which one I'd rescue from water first. Yes. Yeah, we're having an impact. And and that really nicely ties into here, because our concerns with the natural law theory is, first of all, as an argument, we do things that we would call unnatural that we automatically consider good. The same people that say you shouldn't get married because you're gay also go to church in many cases. And going to a denominational church of any kind is unnatural. That's not a thing. It's something you choose to do. And then saying, well, we defend it because we notice that there is homosexual relationships in other population, like wolves and penguins and all these other things, is a defense. It shows that it's natural, but also you didn't need that defense. Humans do a lot of things that are completely unnatural, like wearing clothing. And I thank all of you right now for choosing to do this very unnatural thing. Not only do you wear clothing, you wear the specific clothing we ask you to wear every day in a dress code. Yeah. Which is weird. Pardon? That's what? The specific clothing or clothing at all? Yeah, that's why I'm saying it's unnatural. You were taught you had to be shown. Yeah. This specific clothing you chose. You came here knowing we had a dress code and knowing what it was. So like you decided, I want to look like this for the rest of my school life. Oh, no, that's my assumption. You came here for the dress code. You're like, that's the snazziest looking school. It is pretty nice. Hold it. There are ones. Is that a humorous exaggeration to you, the ankles, or is that actually what they expect? Really? Oh. Very modest, I guess. Oh. I like the gasp of shock. I had no reaction because I'm like, yeah, okay. That I don't have a color sense, so. We also have natural dispositions. Sometimes someone tells me something, and I don't like that. And then I refrain from punching them like they so richly deserve. Violence, greed, helpfulness. Some people refrain from being helpful. I do remember, this is a few years ago now, but one of the talk show hosts said you had to be very careful about your church because your churches teach socialism. And if they give to the poor and give food to the food bank, you should go away from that church. They should only be helping the people in the church. That way you know it's a good national type, won't say which country this was in, church. I have never noticed that the teachings of individual churches necessarily go along with my interpretations of what they should teach. There are lots of ways to interpret things. Yes. Yeah. And in a lot of religions they have, I mean, in Catholicism there's teething where you have to give away 10%, and yeah, a lot of things have the idea of monetary giving. But there's a lot of churches that don't do that as well. So just because we have natural dispositions Also, the idea, because Ms. Mertland did make a good point. When the volcano erupted, it provided a lot of nutrients. Is that the reason the volcano erupted? No, the volcano didn't care. Volcano just erupted. If it turned out to be a disaster for the environment, it would have been a disaster. It would have happened either way. Rain doesn't fall to make the plants grow. It just falls because of meteorological conditions. And if meteorological conditions change, the rain won't fall, or it'll fall harder, in different places. Right now, we are apparently looking at the potential past this shortage. The climate change has caused the grains not to grow as well in the last season, and apparently pasta might be becoming more expensive in the next little while. Not to mention COVID has made supply lines go a little crazy. If you want to get a part from somewhere, it's now more difficult. But there's a logical problem. Are humans part of nature? Yeah, we're mammals. In fact, we're apes. How can we tell that we're apes and not monkeys? We don't have tails. Monkeys have tails, apes don't. And so we can actually track our lineage, we can track our DNA relationship. We are natural. Is a beaver dam natural? As a made thing? So if you went and saw a beaver dam, it's an unnatural thing. Why? Okay, so you've divided natural and unnatural just to things created by animals. So is a beehive unnatural? Hold it. Is it unnatural? I think you're using the word natural and unnatural in a way that most people don't. In that, yeah, yes, I would say that, but I think you saw ahead to what I was going to do and said I'm going to make the beaver dam be unnatural. Yes. Yeah. Out of mud and straw and grass and logs.
Then how is it any different? How can we say that we are creating something unnatural and they are creating something natural when we are basically doing the same thing?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, that's the whole point. It's a logical problem. If we say that a beaver dam is natural, then we kind of have to say that a human hydroelectric dam is also natural. We also made it out of mud and straw and stuff from the ground and logs. But just ours are better. Beaver dams suck. They fill in the holes of all these crawling creatures and gophers and drown them out. They take down trees that other birds would be using. They little hummingbirds in a nest, and then the beaver comes along and crashes it and they drown in the puddle below. Oh, we do, but we do environmental impact studies first. And we know exactly the type of damage we're going to do. And we do it in a way to reduce that damage. So, beaver dam, terribly constructed. Not a very good dam. I mean, it's good enough for a beaver, but really. Human dam. Amazing. In terms of natural and unnatural, the main difference between the human dam and the beaver dam is that ours is just better. Right? Absolutely.
I would say actually
We did it all with our teeth and bodies. But we made the machines with our teeth and bodies. Beavers are pretty. And we could actually go for a walk and see a beaver dam in some point in the future when we have time. Because I know there's one within walking distance. They've actually changed the entire landscape. So obviously some of this is meant to be humorous. What's the difference? We do damage more things. And often what people mean when they say natural and unnatural is human-made and not human-made. And that just gets down, and that just begs the point, because we're talking about the argument that things that are natural are good. If your definition is human-made and not human-made, then you've just defined everything not human-made as good and everything human-made as bad. And so it would be impossible to find anything natural. And you go in the grocery store, I don't care what the label says. Humans made that, even if it says natural cereal and natural ingredients. Humans made that thing. There's nothing natural about putting organic stuff in things. Humans just are a little bit doing some different tests on it in order to make it. I just like that dam so much. Now, does anybody have any questions, this particularly on the logical problem there? Because I think you did it quite well, because you saw what was coming, I think. And you're like, everything that's man-made is going to be unnatural, because then I can escape that. But then you just make everything unnatural. Like then the beaver dam's unnatural, beehives are unnatural, birds' nests are unnatural. And it's still not useful for a good versus bad analogy, because just now everything made is bad. Okay. This is just a caution against storytelling. Rain doesn't fall to make things grow, I said before. And we do have to watch out from that. This is a very famous painting. I can't say the sentence properly because my French is very bad. But does anybody know what that says? Yes? Excellent. And what does that mean? This is not a pipe. Is this a pipe? No, it's not a pipe. What is this? It's a projection of a pipe. In fact, is the original a pipe? It's a projection of a... Excellent. And the original page is known as the treachery of images, and there's certain treachery in our stories as well. Have you done DNA in science at any point? Okay. Has anybody told you that DNA is a code or a blueprint? Yeah. It's not, of course. DNA is its own thing. It is not a code. Nobody sat down and made up a code and programmed something. It acts like a code, and so we use that analogy to better understand it. It also acts like a blueprint. But there's no picture, of course. It's closer to a recipe in that the recipe doesn't look like the final cake. But if you follow the recipe, you usually get a cake. But at the same time, it is a series of chemical reactions that happen on their own through a process of evolution that just so happen to make something. But while it acts like a code and it binds DNA to makes mRNA, which then binds to ribosomes, which then makes proteins, it is not a code in a computer sense. It just acts like a code. And we can treat it like a code in some ways too. We can reprogram it. Our understanding of codes really help us understand DNA. But we do have to not confuse the story with the thing. So when we talk about in physics or chemistry, when I talk about electrons, I'll talk about electrons wanting to be at the lowest energy levels. Electrons don't want anything. They stay where they are because they do that. And our understanding of human emotions helps us understand that if I say that electrons want stuff. But it's not actually that. The story's not the thing, and that is not a pipe. Now the next section we're going to start is on arguments. So up to here, what ethics isn't, and now we're kind of getting into the meat of chapter 1 of logic. We're doing both at the same time. And we're going to learn to identify arguments and how to tell them apart. And sort of peel them apart a little bit as well. This actually has two claims. This is something I was told while my wife was pregnant with my firstborn. Or as I like to call them, my spawn. When you get older, I highly recommend you make some people. Making people is amazing. You get to become their leader. You just need all the information and access to a 3D printer. You may already have a 3D printer. Any problems with this claim? Eating lots of calories while pregnant makes boy babies. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. If the X or Y chromosome was there, it doesn't really matter whether how many calories you eat. There and then there. Mm. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. They could be. They could be a small difference. Now I have. Mm, this has come up before, and I usually have. I wasn't expecting it today, so spurious. There is it. Is this the website? First of all, now, so the first one we can dispense with right away. Eating the number of calories doesn't determine the child. But the second one, which they're giving as support almost, which is badly worded, doesn't even say that eating lots of calories makes boy babies. It says if you graph the number of calories eating while pregnant, as you said, against the gender of the child, the more calories, the more chance of having a boy. That's just a prediction based on what you might already have. And as you said, that may not be correlated. Spurious correlations are common if they're true. Like that also could just be an outright lie. Number of people who drowned by falling into a pool. Oops, sorry. U.S. spending on, I was reading the next one, on science, space, and technology is in red. And suicides by hanging, strangulation, and suffocation. We really should lower our science spending in the States. Number of people who drowned by falling into a pool and the films that Nicolas Cage appeared in. And look, it matches right here. Per capita cheese consumption and the number of people who died by becoming tangled in their bed sheets. You can die. Yeah, some of you just learned that fact. Yeah, you can die by becoming tangled in your bed sheets. They're usually fairly old. Yeah, so like you're probably pretty safe. Yeah. The divorce rate in Maine and the per capita consumption of margarine. Eat less margarine. Age of Miss America and murders by steam, hot vapors, and hot objects. They mentioned hot way too much. It's also not Ms. America, even still. Total revenue generated by arcades and computer science doctorates awarded in the U.S. So as you can see, there's lots. And you can just find these. These are completely spurious. You can also get ones that make kind of sense for different reasons. If you have, for example, I graph malaria cases, and I go, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. Malaria cases, generally they go like that over the year. And if I do soda consumption for the Americans or pop consumption for the Canadians, you get an almost one-to-one match. Why would soda consumption be linked to malaria? And this is true no matter, wherever there's malaria, this is true. Yeah, they both have a common cause, so they're both in the summer. So some of them have a common cause. Some of them are just random. If you look at enough data, you can find ones that overlap. And I think the boy-baby one is just something that people say. It's probably not even ever been tracked or true. So teasing apart arguments is something we'll do next day. Hold it. Today's Thursday. Enjoy your break. We will see you after the break. Once you come back for the break, just a heads up, I'll probably announce a quiz. If there is homework you haven't gotten in, please get it in ASAP, because over the break I'm intending to do a fair bit of marking.